Hi guys, Lindsay here with Storybrook Family Farm. If you're new to growing things, it might be a little confusing for you to know how close is too close to plant things. And there's really not a cut and dry answer for this because there's a lot of different variables, including how your soil is, how wet things are, and the biggest thing is how neat and tidy do you want your garden to look? Do you want it to look like something you could post pictures of on Instagram or on Facebook and people go, oh my God, it's such a beautiful thing? Or are you more concerned with production? Because for me, I'm not that concerned about the aesthetics of what my garden looks like, but more so of how much food can I grow in a very small space. That's what I like. I like jamming packed everything, every inch as good as I can to grow as much food as possible in a very small space because space is at a premium where I live, and I think it is for a lot of people too. So one of the things that I have learned throughout my years is that observing what nature naturally does is a huge teacher for a gardener. So you'll read in different magazines, articles, books, the back of seed packets, or even just when you're looking at a seed magazine. How rude, interrupting like that. You'll read that you should plant things 20 feet apart, or that they should be 18 inches and have rows 36 inches apart and all this stuff. And it makes it seem like you need an awful lot of space to grow even just a small amount of food. And I'm here to tell you that that is just simply not true. Okay, so for example, these trees behind me, they are very, very large trees. Like this maple tree here, I couldn't even wrap my arms anywhere near around it. It's that big of a tree. This cherry tree that's right beside it, it is probably about 2 feet in diameter. I know on camera it doesn't look that big because, well, I'm standing a few feet away from them. But that's because there's thorn bush right behind me, so I don't want to get pricked. And then right beside where this tree here is, there used to be a really big cherry tree. Their roots are actually growing together. Okay, so these trees are huge. Here is the fallen down cherry tree that's also, so big around that you can't even wrap your arms around it. Okay, these three trees are growing within about a 7-foot span of massive trees. Like, that's just how it is. On this property, there are several different areas where there are two different species of trees growing side by side that are essentially sharing the same soil space for their roots and all of that things. So what does that tell you? That tells you that even though you're reading online that a maple tree needs approximately 20 to 40 space in between all other trees so that way it can thrive and function, it's not actually true. While it might be true that it will grow faster if it has all this extra ample space, it doesn't mean that it will not grow. It doesn't mean that it will not produce maple syrup. It doesn't mean that it will not produce seed heads and leaves and shade and oxygen. It doesn't mean that it's going to fail just because you're not adhering to the guidelines. Okay, so one of the things that I do in my annual beds is I plant my green beans ridiculously close together. Okay, so everybody knows that most people, they plant in straight rows. And you just have nice, straight, even rows, and you spend hours and hours and hours every week weeding your garden and doing all this stuff. The thing is, if you sit and observe nature, you will see that there is not any bare soil anywhere pretty much. There's always something that'll pop up, whether it be something that you want or don't want. Like in the woods, a lot of this bare soil here actually is covered in poison ivy, which is obviously not something I want, but that was something that could grow in this space, and basically it volunteered for the position of covering the dirt. So in that way it doesn't get damaged from the sun or dry out, and it also will help with erosion. So one of the things that you can do is you can actually cognitively go, okay, nature's always going to cover up bare soil. So if I just plant more stuff, soil's covered, weeds are gone, pressure is gone. So what I do with green beans is, you can do the straight rows of, I think the standard people, they plant, I've never planted like this. So I don't know proper spacing because I've never listened. Most people, they plant their green bean plants, I think 6 inches apart. And I'm not completely sure because I've been doing it this way since I was a little girl. What I do is about every 3 inches or so, I plant a seed. I do this in like a block. So I have currently a 12-inch wide row, and in that 12-inch wide row there is like 5 little rows of beans, and they go the entire span. It's not in perfectly straight rows. It's literally, I just went plunk, 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 plunk into the soil with the bean seeds. What happens is as the bean plants grow, their leaves will all touch each other, creating a nice canopy that then will make it so that way the soil moisture does not evaporate when the sun is on there. It also makes it so they become the dominant players. They choke out the weeds, so you don't have to deal with weeds. You can do this practice with a lot of different things, different kales, brassicas, cabbages, cauliflower, broccoli, you guys get the point. Tomatoes you can do it somewhat with. I usually plant my tomato plants about a foot apart, because if you have them too close, too crowded together, then they can actually get diseases from it not having enough, well, there's not enough airflow that flows through there, so it makes it so there's more problems with bacterial issues if you live in a humid climate like I do. So it does sort of change things there. One of the biggest things that you have to be concerned about, though, if you are planting closer together, is that your soil has to be healthy. So what I do for that is I actually use spent hay, because we have goats. And what is classified as spent hay is hay that they've, trampled on, done their business on, slept on, all that sort of good jazz. I actually put that in my garden to use it as a mulch, just like how nature uses the leaves in the forest to cover the soil and let it break down over time. I do the same thing with the spent hay. Doing that makes it so that way there's a lot more moisture that's maintained in the soil. It makes it so that way it also chokes out a lot of weed seeds and small weeds that are trying to come up. It also makes it so that way the worms and other like microbiological stuff, real technical terms here. So all those sorts of things, they thrive together because it gives the worms an actual feed source, so they can come up and they can eat and nibble on the hay. It protects them from birds of flying above and eating them. And it creates a really good ecosystem and a living system. So if you're trying to figure out how close to plant things together, just think of a forest. Look around you. Go to a park somewhere. Go to any wooded area that's kind of untouched by man, that's just naturally occurring, and you'll see that there are trees planted really close together that planted themselves, or a squirrel planted them, and they just started thriving. Like it's really, really simple to figure out what to do next with gardening if you just open your eyes and look around you. So that is my biggest tip. If you guys have any questions about specifically things of how far I put them, leave them down in the comments below, and I will get back as fast as possible with what I do. For example, when we lived in town and we had a very small garden, I was able to grow approximately 75% of our family of three's vegetable intake for the entire year on, I think I had like 1,200 square feet of growing space. So a lot can be done in a very, very small space, especially if you can compact things together. So like I said, any questions, leave them down below, and I'll get back as fast as possible because I love to help people. So if you guys are enjoying this content, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it with your friends on social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to help us grow. We'd greatly appreciate it. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.